All right, well, that was wild. It just like stopped. It said your live broadcast has ended. I don't know why it ended. But I'm hoping we can fix that. Let's see if I can. This is so annoying. If it does it again, I'm gonna just cry probably. Oh, see. Okay. Oh, let's see. Okay, I have no idea. I hope it doesn't do this again. That was so. I'm so sorry. I have no idea what happened. Um. Okay, so we were just talking about sizes of your primaries and how they were pretty small. I just wanted to add that combining primaries is not an ideal situation for every primary. But if you have a small primary, it's kind of your only option. I kind of asked Charla, like, what is that like magic number? And she said six consistently. If you have six in each age group, consistently being the key, then it would be okay to split. But if you have 10, 7, 8, 9, 10-year olds and only two littles, it doesn't really make sense to split that way either. So it really depends on the ages of the children in your primary, the balance, and then just the numbers and how often people are coming. Um, I want to ask you guys what the hardest thing is. And Lacy, this is different for you because you've never really taught it both ways. But what are some of the hard things about teaching a combined primary?
So I will say I was the primary president back when we had enough kids to have split, so I've watched it a lot, and you can do things that are better fits for certain developmental stages, certain ages. So there are definitely advantages, but again, I've only taught combined, and so I see some pros to it since it's the hand I've been dealt, so there are things, if you're in that situation where it makes sense, there are things to love.
Okay, Catherine, how about you?
At the beginning, I was kind of new to Charlotte's methods if I was aware of them at all. And so I've never been one to display the words on a poster, but one of the things I thought was, wow, I have a whole tool that I can't use. I can't use words in any way. And you'll often hear, oh, what about the visual learners? I myself am a visual learner, but I found there are so many other ways you can engage visual learners that don't require them to be able to read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, ooh, yeah, there's a lot of tricky things that so my experience teaching combined primaries is that I never really have, but I've subbed for combined primaries and only a handful of times. And that is always the hard thing is like younger children don't really use like the logic. They don't use actual like written words. And but there are a lot of things that overlap, and so that is nice. Um, I wrote down some of the things here. And one of them was striking a balance between the developmental ages, between your 3-year-olds and your 11-year-olds, and trying to strike a balance. That is a tricky thing. And we thought of a couple of things that we do. And Catherine, one of the things that I know that you do often is instead of teaching to a 3-year-old level or an 11-year-old level, you kind of meet in the middle. About what age do you think that middle is for you?
Oh, it's probably closer to 7 or 8. It does lean toward the older end of the scale because I feel that the older kids getting bored and tuning out, in my primary at least, is that's a bigger danger than the young kids being frustrated because they can't do it. If nothing else, they can do the steady beat, they can do interpretive dance, and I watch to make sure that they are still engaged on some level. And I don't know, I hope that it's helpful for them to have something to aspire to aim for that's a little bit just a little bit out of their grasp.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Lacy, are there any things that you do to kind of balance the younger and older?
Yeah, so I agree with what Catherine shared. I think if I were just planning for a junior primary, I would probably underestimate them because there are activities I do that I think are going to be really challenging for them, and they're engaged and they're doing it well enough to be having a great time and really be benefiting from it. So I think I would agree that I tend to, the middle is not the middle. It's a little higher because the younger kids kind of rise to that challenge, and that way the older kids aren't left with something that's just not engaging at all for them.
Yeah, I love that. I think that two other ways that we can kind of find this balance. One thing that I've done before, and I know Charlotte's talked about, is kind of dividing your room in half, having your older kids sit on one side, your younger kids sit on the other side. And then there are times when an activity doesn't really lend well, like maybe erase or pass or a complex melody map or code, when it doesn't really lend well to younger children, to provide two activities that happen side by side. And I know it sounds scary, and it actually is a little bit hard, but it's a really good way of meeting both sides, both both ages groups of kids, where everyone is engaged, everyone can participate, and everyone is learning at the same time. And another way, and along those same lines of splitting down the middle, is to have your olders on one side and your youngers on the other. And then this would be more for like rhythm activities or, patterns and beats to a steady beat, whatever. Um, and it would be providing a simple pattern for the younger children and then say, okay, now you follow Sister Johnson, right? And this half of the room, you're going to follow me. We're going to add a couple of things, and then to provide a harder pattern. So that would be a modified way to do activities, because it really is important that each child is engaged and not super frustrated, because if they get too frustrated, they will kind of tune out. So and I loved one of the things we talked about before this is that Catherine said, I just kind of read the room and make sure that no one's getting too frustrated, right? Because if the little ones do get frustrated, then that's when you see some of the behavior problems. That's when they don't feel the joy of primary. And really, the joy of primary and singing is kind of what it's, what the focus is. Tina says, I target my 7-year-olds. She does have more junior than senior, so that would make sense. And yeah, she says she watches the juniors to make sure she's not losing them. That is important. I love that you added that. But there are some pros to only having one primary session, and I think one of them is that sometimes you only plan for one activity. I mean, there's a lot of things that you don't really have to provide two separate things, and so you're kind of able to catch all of them at the same time, and I love that. Trying to think. Okay, is there anything else that you guys wanted to add to that, to the pros and cons of a combined primary?
Sometimes the music leader will be asked to go into nursery, and if you have one primary session, you can do that.
Ooh, I love that.
I do that too, and it's just a highlight.
Oh, and that's what, I don't know what your first name is. Sister Shisley? That's what she just said. She uses that extra time to go into primary or to nursery, and I think that's so great. All right, now you two have prepared a couple of demonstrations to show us what teaching a combined primary looks for you guys. And I want to kind of just jump in. So Catherine, is it okay if we start with you?
Okay.
Great.
All right. Just as background, I often will introduce the song using some kind of directed listening activity. And if you aren't familiar with that, Donna Howard is the queen of that method. So look up her live on directed listening. And so with that out of the way, I guess I'll just pretend that you are my primary. Okay. You all did such a great job learning the actions with the chorus of the Iron Rod last time. Let's see if we can come up with some actions for the first verse. So it starts, to Nephi, seer of olden time, a vision came from God. Okay, what are some actions we could do? Oh, seer, overseeing, that's a good one. Let's do that. Old, yeah, like a beard. Okay, olden, Okay, and time. Okay. Let's see, how about a vision came from God? Okay, this is vision. And then we'll motion up toward heaven for God. Okay, let's sing that together and see how that goes. To Nephi, seer of olden time, a vision came from God. All right. Wherein the holy word sublime was shown an iron rod. Anybody know what sublime means? That's I don't think I hear that word every day. Any guesses from the context? Yeah, it is something good. So I would say sublime is something that's so wonderful and so amazingly beautiful. You almost can't describe it. It's like the most beautiful thing. And when we say was shown an iron rod, that doesn't mean that we showed the iron rod to the scriptures. It means it was shown to be like it was compared to the iron rod. Got that? Okay. So how will we do the holy word sublime? Oh yeah. A lot of you are holding out your hands like the scriptures. And oh, sublime, it's like sparkly and beautiful, right? And how about we just do a shown an iron rod? We'll do our iron rod action. Okay, let's put them all together. To Nephi, seer of olden time, a vision came from God, wherein the holy word sublime was shown an iron rod. Oh, great. Okay, so for an extender with this, I would say, let's do the action instead of singing the word. Sing the word inside your mind while we do the action. And then if there's still time, okay, let's only sing the words with our action and sing the other words inside our minds. Okay, so that is the iron rod. All right. Our next song, we'd reviewed We'll Bring the World His Truth with 2 or 3 different movement and rhythm-based activities. So I brought these pictures and I walked around the room very slowly as we sang the entire song. I think I won't sing the entire verse for you because we're shorter on time. We have been born as Nephi of old, to goodly parents who love the Lord. Okay, and after we had sung it and I walked around the room, I turned around and I said, okay, what do you remember about this picture? Where were the people? Yep, they're on a boat, you're right. Were they grown-ups or kids? Oh, you saw some grown-ups and some kids. Did anybody have a beard? Did you see anybody with a beard? Oh yeah, a white beard, you're right. How many birds did you see? Oh, you say 2? Oh, Anthony, you think you saw 3? You know what? It's 3. There's one down here. Oh, good job. And then we would, then we'd move to the next picture. And we have been taught and we understand that we must do as the Lord commands. Okay, where were these people? Oh, yeah, looks like they're in church. How do you know they're in church? Oh, they're dressed in church clothes. What are they doing? Oh, the sacrament. Bread or water? You're right, it's the water. Okay, so then we'd go to the next picture. There's a family playing together. There's a family praying. Most of the kids noticed the Book of Mormon on the table. And I showed the stripling warriors, and they looked over on the bulletin board where this same picture was displayed. It was pretty funny. And then here are missionaries. So at the end I said, what will these have to do with what we just sang? And so they'd say, oh, the parents were teaching them, they were being missionaries, etc. So that one was really successful for both groups. One thing I did was I would start with simpler questions, and if younger children were raising their hands, I would call on them first to make sure they had an opportunity to participate. And sometimes, they'll just yell out, Jesus. And so I'll say, I am so happy that you love Jesus so much. That is awesome. And then, move on to the next thing. Okay, so our last one is Nephi's courage. I've got one of the activities I used was the solo cups. So we started out simple. Oh, and when I hand out the manipulatives, I used to say, hold it in ready position. But recently I realized that if I ask them to do the steady beat while we wait for everybody else to get theirs, they're already engaged when we're ready to start. And it does control it better than, you know, this is kind of, I think it's kind of boring for my kids. The Lord commanded Nephi to go and get the plates from the wicked Laban inside the city gates. Freeze. Okay, then after we did that, I would, you know, I think you've got this rhythm down. Would you like to add an element of challenge? Okay, younger kids, you follow Sister Killian, or maybe you have children in your primary who are able to keep the steady beat and model that for the younger kids. In my primary, honestly, we have maybe 5 younger kids, and they're all sitting next to a teacher. So they just follow the teachers. I don't have to have somebody model. So there are many ways you could do this. So, all right, you follow Sister Killian. Older kids, see if you can follow me. The Lord commanded Nephi to go and get the plates from the wicked Laban inside the city gates. Freeze! Do you have your other hand on the cup? Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit trickier. Laban and Lemuel were both afraid to try. Nephi was courageous. This was his reply. All right, and we would sing this a few times, and they would still be engaged, but sometimes the older kids will ask to do harder patterns. They'll suggest actions we can do, like, oh, let's flip it over. And so we will do that, but so those are my 3 activities.
Ooh, I love that. Good job. So what are some specific things that you did to catch both groups? And I know we've kind of already talked about these, so this is kind of like, this is like Sunday school when they're like, really, you mean the answers are always the same and you want me to say them again. But let's kind of go through those. And we can start backwards and go to the beginning. Is that okay?
Okay.
So that last activity, you provided a modification for the younger ones, because really it's just that steady beat. And Charlotte teaches that it's really important that kids learn how to keep a steady beat, and the ages that's really important is like 3 to 9. So I love that the younger ones really had an opportunity to really just pound that rhythm right into their bodies. And then your older ones, because that would be way too simple for them, you provided an opportunity for them to do something a little bit more challenging. And that way both groups are learning, both groups are happy, and they're both doing it at the same time in the same space. And I love that so much. The thing that you did before that was, I call it inside pictures.
Inside camera.
Something.
Yeah, I never knew what to call it. So I like inside camera. I'm going to go
inside camera. I'm like, what is it that I call this activity? And I literally tell the children when I do that to get out your cameras, especially the younger ones who love this imaginative play. Get out your cameras, and I want you to take a picture of my picture and keep it in your mind. I want you to remember everything in the picture, right? And they really do. I walk around the room and they're snapping their little inside camera pictures, and it's super cute. And that is an activity that I found works really well for junior and for senior with no modifications. They can literally do the same thing. But Catherine, you did something really specific. Is you started with easier questions and you called on the younger children first. And then when the questions got trickier, you would call on the older children. And I love that makes everyone feel involved, everyone feel unified, and everyone is learning at the same time. Usually when I do that activity, we sing through the songs probably at least 4 times.
Yeah.
And we try to move really fast in between so that we get lots of repetitions in. And
yeah,
then
I think we sang it 6 times.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. That's so good. That's awesome. And then the first activity that you did was actions. And I found the same thing. Actions work really well for both groups. And I love to have my younger children create the actions just like you did, because it helps them form a better relationship, a closer relationship with the words. And it gives you an opportunity to kind of explain some of the trickier words. So I thought that was really great too. Sometimes if we're running short on time in senior, I'll just say, let me teach you the actions that little kids came up with. This is for a split primary, right? And they always think their actions are adorable. So yeah, little kids are so good at creating actions. I love that so much. Catherine, do you have anything else to add about that?
I don't think so.
Lacy, anything to add?
No, that was great. I got some good ideas.
Oh, I love it. Okay, all right, Lacy, would it be okay if we moved on to you?
Yeah, I am going to do the same songs, but different activities. These are ones that I've actually used in my primary, teaching them this year, and they've been great. So, all right, I'm so happy to see you all today. Do you remember how we've been learning about Nephi? Here's the Lord up here, and here's Nephi down here on earth, and the Lord has something he needs Nephi to do. The Lord commanded Nephi to go and build a boat. Take your paper and fold the corner with the Lord down to the corner with Nephi. Can you do it with me? The Lord commanded Nephi to go and build a boat. Good. Oh, I see that a lot of you are getting it. All right, let's try one more time. We've got a corner at the top and a corner at the bottom. The Lord commanded Nephi to go and build a boat. Now, Nephi had two brothers, and his brothers were not very nice to him. They were always putting him down. So take this top corner, and we're going to say, Nephi's older brothers believed it would not float. Take that corner and put it right down to the bottom, and we're going to fold it. So, Nephi's older brothers believed it would not float. And he had another brother, Laman and Lemuel, did not believe in Nephi. Laughing and mocking, they said he should not try. Wait, am I in the right verse? I might be. So here we go. The Lord commanded Nephi to go and build a boat. Nephi's older brothers believed it would not float. And then they laughed and they mocked at him. They pointed their fingers and they said, you can't do it. So we're going to take this corner and fold it up like this, like a finger pointing at Nephi. Laughing and mocking, they said he should not try. Do you have both of your pointing fingers? So let's try that one again. We've got our paper like this. We're going to say, laughing and mocking, they said he should not try. And then fold up the bottom. See your bottom corner right here? We're going to fold it up just a little bit like this because Nephi was courageous. Here's Nephi. He's looking up to heaven for courage. Nephi was courageous. This was his reply. Turn your paper around. What did you make? You made a boat, just like Nephi. I will go, I will do the thing the Lord commands. I know the Lord provides a way he wants me to obey. I will go, I will do the thing the Lord commands. I know the Lord provides a way he wants me to obey. I noticed that you were really good at listening and following instructions when you made your boats. Just like Nephi was good at listening to the Lord even when it was hard, so he had a boat to keep his family safe. This one was pretty successful with all my kids. I was a little nervous, but even the juniors did awesome. It was great. All right, next we've got, we'll bring the world to his truth. So this is one of the few split activities that I do with my kids. So I've got an activity for the juniors and an activity for the seniors. All right, kids on this side of the room, I've got a puzzle for you. Sister Jones' class, come sit right here. You're going to do the blue puzzle. Sister Hosley's class, come sit right here. You're going to do the green puzzle. All right, listen as I sing, and you're going to hear some clues that will help you. All right, my seniors on this side, here's your puzzle. Good luck. Listen to some clues. I walk around the room singing to them. I'll show you. This is a crack the code. It has the first letter of each word in the song. They're not in order. I don't give a lot of instructions because they like the challenge. So I just hand them a bag and go, and they know that they need to listen carefully. The great thing is I can usually get my juniors to get their puzzles together and swap puzzles while the seniors are still working on their crack the code. So I'll usually sing the song to them at least 3 or 4 times, and then we sing it all together to check their work. Oftentimes they've got one out of order, they got to switch. This keeps my seniors really involved. So in case anyone has not done this one before, here's the first line. We have been born as Nephi of old. And it takes them some doing, but they're pretty good at it. To goodly parents who love the Lord. I will usually try to put at least 1 or 2 symbols in. That kind of gives them a reference of I know what that one is for sure. I know where it goes, and it anchors them as they figure out the puzzle. In the meantime, my juniors have put their puzzles together, put them back in the bag, and swapped with the green team and the blue team. All right, my last one is the iron rod. This one is our drum circle activity. I save it for last so that we can move the chairs and then just head out to class.
Can you
back?
pull the camera back?
Yeah.
So we can see you.
Yep. Okay, you hold that right there. All right, so we're going to pretend this is my chair right here. We've got all the kids. We've got the chairs in a circle. They're facing their chairs, and we're going to do our drum circle. So, okay, take your hands and follow me. Here we go. We're going to practice. We're going to go down, click, click, down, click, click. You hear your chair, click, click, chair, click, click. Oh, it looks like we have it. Okay, sing with me. To Nephi's era of olden time, a vision came from God, wherein the holy works of blood was shown an iron rod. Freeze. Good job. You did it. Now pay attention. Something's changing. Hold to the rod, the iron rod. Freeze. What did you notice? How many times did we hit our chair? 3. That's right. We went 1, 2, 3, click. 1, 2, 3, click. Okay, here we go. Hold to the rod, the iron rod, 'tis strong and bright and true. The iron rod is the word of God, 'twill safely guide us through. Freeze. Good job. Do you think you can do the whole thing together? And then we repeat.
What are you using as your drumsticks? Oh, okay, that's a good question. Your dowels are so colorful. Did you paint those or did you buy colorful dowels?
These are Amazon rhythm sticks.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, just
I love
rhythm
that.
off of
That
Amazon.
is so fun. And did you find that drum circle engaged both of your groups, your youngers and your olders at the same time?
They really like it. Now, are the youngers completely on getting it exactly right? No. Are they having an absolutely fabulous time? Yep, they are.
And I would vote that that's what's most important for learning is that they are happy and engaged and able to listen. So I love that activity. And your older kids, I know it wasn't the most complicated rhythm activity, but they still probably loved it too because they love to make the noise. They love the change of sitting in a circle. So it was a very intriguing activity for them too. Oh, I love that.
They really do like it, and they like we figured out that whenever we do something like this, the last note just has to be the riff because everyone's going to do it anyway, so we just planned for it.
Yeah, I mean, why even pull out paper plates or rhythm sticks if you're not going to do a nice drum roll at the end, right? Oh, I love that. Or even the egg shakers, a nice fermata shake at the end. And then before that, you did the side-by-side activity where you had puzzles for one side and you have crack the code for the other. They're working on the same thing. I mean, they're working at the same time on 2 different things that are age appropriate. They're both learning, and it sounds like it went great for you.
It does. It works great. And I mean, you can't see, but this is just one of the old gospel art kit pictures laminated and cut up, and it is the armies of Helaman, and then the other one is of a baby, and we talked about, this is like a baby being born to parents, who teach them about Jesus. And so that kind of keeps them engaged with the words of the song, because I tell them, listen for a clue, and you're going to know what your picture's about, and that helps them as they put it together.
Oh, I love that. Lacy, a different Lacy has a question. She
Mhm.
says, are all of your senior kids working on the same one crack the code, or is it just one for each class? And I'm guessing that this would be different depending on how many kids you had,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, so
So
tell me about that.
I usually try to have no more than 3, maybe 5 at the very most kids working on a crack the code, because otherwise 2 or 3 kids take over and everyone. So I do the same puzzle, but I do multiple copies in different zip bags, and then I just divide them up into groups of 4 or 5 kids and hand them each a bag. I should mention that it's not just age. I've got a couple kids with special needs in my primary, and so sometimes I'll bring, a puzzle for them, even though they're older. That's developmentally appropriate for them, and they'll enjoy it more because they're not readers.
I love that. I love that so much. And then your first activity, I have never seen build a boat in primary, and I love that. It felt almost like a song story,
Right.
with a craft element to it, and I also could envision that it was so easy to fold and unfold that you could probably do that multiple times, right, in one primary, to make sure you got that like repetition. And obviously the first time you're talking a little bit more and more like a song story, but then after that you can pretty much just fold and they just follow along.
Yeah.
I thought that was adorable.
Yeah, and I can't take any credit for it. Like most of my activities, it came from this page. Someone was kind enough to post a video and share it.
That is what this page is for. And I just think that was so fun. Catherine, did you have anything to add to these little remarks that we?
Yeah, I also wondered if each child got a bag, but okay, so they can team up in smaller teams. And yeah, I really did think song story when you were doing the boat and telling the story and relating it to the the shape that the paper was at that time. That was really fun.
When we did it took a little longer so we could get more repetitions in for each step. And it really does give you a lot of, especially with a short song like that, a lot of repetitions of each phrase and then putting it together. And I love having the kids check their own work, like, with the boat, with the crack the code. And so I don't tell them if they got it right or not. We get to the end and everyone thinks, okay, yep, we've got it. So great, let's sing it together and check their work as we go. And I let them find their own things that they need to switch. And I think that solidifies it in their minds.
I love that. I'm a big fan of split their room activities for combined primaries. And so I kind of made a little list of things that I love for combined primaries. If I'm gonna split the room, what are some things that go really well together? And on my list I had eraser pass and puzzles. I think puzzles is just a really easy one. All kids love puzzles, and so it's just a really convenient activity to give to the little ones. And then I thought envelope game with words, and then envelope game with pictures, almost like an oops, I dropped the pictures, and they get to use the pictures. And honestly, the older kids like the pictures too. So even that one, you don't necessarily need to split unless you feel like your older kids are sick of doing oops, I dropped the pictures. Rhythm activities with a modification, and I love that Catherine showed us that. Melody maps. I love melody maps, and I'm like, how in the world do you do this? I know that some people say the little ones can do it, but I'm like, I've had 3-year-olds, and I know that they can't always do it. But I remember a few years ago, Charlotte had a melody map on her website, and for part of the activity, she had children just attach pictures around the melody map, and I love to do that with little. So the older kids can be working on figuring out what everything means, why it goes up, why things are longer, why this is a different color, right? And the little ones can take pictures that relate to the song and just place them around the melody map. And that's a really good way where you can still do your melody maps, but your little ones are still happy because they're involved and they want the magnet so they can put their picture up. And anyway, that's an easy one. And then coloring pages for little ones. Sometimes big kids don't love to color, but little kids always love to color. So a coloring page for the little ones, and then something that's a more logic based for the older ones is always a good option. And then color codes. I think kids can do codes, young kids sometimes, and it depends on a lot of things. But I do know that there are a couple of codes. There's like a keep the commandment code that's pretty easy, and then help me dear father code that are really easy. If you wanted to do a harder code and a simple code on the board at the same time, that's always an option too. And I've even learned that the simplified codes, the older kids, especially for a last activity after their brains have been working really hard for, 15 minutes already, those simple codes, they love those too. Um, Let me think. Do you guys have any other ideas of those like side by side activities that you like to use?
I love melody maps. That's my favorite way to introduce a new song. I always start with the chorus so they have something to come home to, after we learn the verse. But my juniors do great with melody maps. I use a lot of symbols, and so we'll just talk about, who knows, what could the heart stand for? Well, even the sunbeams know that, oh, we sing love, there's a heart. I probably know that one.
Yeah.
And there have been a few times, when I've had enough senior kids that really need a challenge, that sometimes after we've learned it with a melody map, we've learned the song really well, I've even just cut out the shapes and just handed them a bag and said, make it on the floor, figure it out. And they can go back and kind of recreate because they know the principle by then of, higher and lower, and those symbols stand for certain words. So I think that one can even be a split activity, even though it's the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that idea. I love that. I've had them attach the right things to a board where I maybe have drawn the melody and then they have to attach them. They have like a space and they have to attach the symbols. But I love even like a step further, like here's your floor. This is your staff. Let's see what you can create. That's so cool. Catherine, you were nodding your head enthusiastically. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I just agree that the more symbols you can use and the more colors, like my little kids, they've even figured out that if there's a gold circle on the map, it usually relates to Heavenly Father or Jesus. They know that the smiley face is going to be I, me, or my. Yeah. And I think that, I used your mountain melody map, Angie, for Redeemer of Israel. I think that you color coded the words to the right. And so I color coded the keywords. And, because they were in rainbow order, even the little kids could identify the rainbow order. And then when we took away words, like with Eraser Pass, I would have the younger kids, okay, which one are we going to take away? Orange, okay.
Ooh, so you're saying that you can use words with youngers if it's actually a symbol.
Yeah.
The color was what the youngers were doing,
Yeah.
but they were able to do that with the older kids.
Yeah, if at all possible, you want to have a picture associated with it too, or have it be a color or on a shape. Yeah, I never would do.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah, never just pure. Yeah. No, I know. I agree. I'm just saying that. Yeah, that worked for your littles because they were able to match the colors. They might not have been able to read them, but they were still involved.
And I think you can also, I don't do a lot of word heavy, literacy heavy stuff either because you just can't. But even when we do Eraser Pass, I'll pair up, I'll read the 3 words to the littles and they'll know. I mean, once they get it through auditory, they can tell you which word really goes there. And then I pair them up with an older, and the older will help them know which one to erase. I write them in different colors so they can tell them, oh, erase the green one, erase the blue one. The red one says Nephi. And so it works for both age groups that way.
Oh, so pairing an older child and a younger child, is that something you do very often, Lacy? Because I love that, and I've done that before, and I think it's great.
I don't do it super often lately just because we skew to a lot more younger ones. But yes, there are times when it works great, especially when we have sibling groups and one of the little siblings, doesn't have the confidence to participate as much without an older sibling's help. It works great. It's just natural.
I love that. There is a sweet little boy in our ward who has Down syndrome, and he is one of my son's friends. He'll come over and play, and my son will go over there and play. And in primary, he doesn't always like to participate, but I've noticed that if I pair him up with a buddy, then he's more than happy to participate. So, I mean, I think that's a really similar thing, and I just think that was really sweet. I was reading through Charlotte's book earlier about partner learning because I know in senior primary we kind of focus a lot on partner learning, and in her book she says that younger children, they're your partner, you're their partner, right? So when they're interacting with people to learn, it needs to be you. But she said the difference is if you can pair them up with an older child, and then that works well. But pairing 2 younger children doesn't necessarily work well. But if it's a younger with an older, then she says it's
Yeah,
effective.
with the
So I thought that was
teacher.
interesting.
Yeah.
Have you found
Oh yeah,
that too?
and the mirror activity is a good one. You
Oh,
know, hearing the younger kids with a teacher or an older child. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Um, do you guys have, I wanted to kind of give people a list of like activities that you found that you have no, you don't have to modify, you don't have to split the room. Like, what are some things that work really good for both groups?
I would say it's going to be a lot of my kind of go-to no or low prep ones, like body rhythm cards, where the kids get to help me build patterns of, shoulders, legs, claps, whatever. They really like those.
Oh, and Kim Bowman has like some amazing
Mhm.
pattern cards. If you guys haven't seen them, go and find them because she does such a good job. They're amazing.
Yeah, I think those really work well. Honestly, I know a lot of people do a lot of split activities. I rarely do split activities. I feel like more than I would have guessed, activities can work for the combined primary
Mm-hmm.
without as much modification.
Yeah. Can you give us a couple more of your favorite? I wrote a long
Um,
list, but I don't want to be the only one sharing my favorite
silent,
combined primary ideas.
silent video
Ooh,
works well for
silent video.
both.
Yes, that is an
Yeah.
excellent one for both groups. Totally.
All the audiation activities that I do, either pulling the colored scarves out of the bag or, holding up my animal cards to represent musical directions like,
Staccato, legato, yeah,
yeah.
piano forte. But okay, when you said color pulling your scarves out of the bag, I don't know if everyone knows what that is, and it's a great
Okay.
review activity. So could you
Yeah.
explain that one?
So I have I should have brought them to demonstrate. I have, just the scarves that you use for a scarf activity, but I just tie them end to end so they're like in a big long string. I stuff them into, well, um, don't make them into a ball. They might not come out the way you want. You just want to fold them and stuff them into a shoe box with a hole in one side. And then as you pull them out, they know that when they see red, that means it's the girls' turn to sing. And then when blue comes out of the box, it's the boys. And right, purple is all the kids together. People, there are all kinds of ways to adapt that. You could have colored yarn that comes out of a can or ribbon.
Yeah. I do something similar. We just have sheets of colored paper with magnets up on the whiteboard, and I have them all look around. Okay, look around. Who's wearing pink? Don't forget to check your socks. Do you have a bow in your hair? Who's wearing brown? And then when we point to it, anyone who has that color on has to sing. And then I'll point to make it harder, we'll point to 2 colors at a time or 3 colors at a time. And yeah, something similar that they all get engaged in that because it has the added challenge of, wait, is that my turn?
Mm-hmm.
The kid next to me has a yellow and he's tight. Hey, it's your turn.
Ooh, I love both of those, especially for review. Those are awesome activities for review. Um, are there any others that just jump out at you or like these are so good for combined primaries?
Um,
Anything else?
there's some songs where it just seems kind of natural to invite responses from the kids, like love one another, or I think for Mother's Day, we did love one another, and I said, okay, think about as we sing, think of a way you know that your mother loves you, and if you'd like to share, raise your hand, and I will toss the beanbag to you. And so they would share, and I'd say, okay, and we'll sing it again. How can you show that you love your mother? And it's yeah, I said, um, my mother lives in heaven now, so how do you think I could show my love for her? And wow, the answers they gave were so insightful and sweet. Well, do the things she taught you, or show love to everybody else, and that will make her proud. And I thought, wow, um, glad I did that for Mother's Day instead of just having them pick the flowers and the song is on the flower.
Yeah, there are better ways than pick the flower off the board, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of just go down my list of some of the things I love to do with the combined primary. We talked about actions already. Thank you, Catherine. I also love ASL with combined primaries. I think little ones do really great with ASL. I do ASL in a few different ways, but probably my favorite way is to sing the whole song in ASL and then show them a sign after and say, I want you to look for this sign and tell me what it is. So then we'll sing the song again. And when we get to the end, I say, so who remembers what this was? And then they tell me. And then I'll pick another sign, or, you know, something, you know, and they watch for it. And they, honestly, my primary got really good at ASL, and it was really cute. We were only signing keywords. We weren't doing grammatically correct ASL, but it was still a really great way for them to be introduced to sign language. This might not be Charlatans, but I was wondering who's missing works really well for primary. I know what that game is, Lacy, and I don't know if it would be exactly Charlotte Dance approved, but it is a fun way to review if it works for your primary. I mean, Charlotte will tell you right now, anytime you talk to her, that there's not one right way to teach primary. This is just a way that is backed by research, and it really works. But that would be a really fun reward activity for a primary to play that game, because it is fun. One thing about that activity though is that it really only involves one or two children at a time. You know, like I know everyone is singing, but I just feel like not everyone gets a turn, and sometimes little kids can have hurt feelings. And I would say that would be the reason why I would personally shy away from that game. But I know that some people really do love it.
And
all right.
I have a kind of an alternative that works well for our primary. I think I'm really bad at who dropped the pictures because my kids hate it, and I think it's me. But what we do instead, and it's kind of similar to kind of be like the looking and noticing, is I'll hang up the pictures around the room before primary starts, you know, when we've used them before and done another activity where they've put them in order or something. And then I give them their finger lights, and we turn out the lights, and they have to find it and point at it with their lights as we sing that part of the song. So it's a similar kind of, you know, looking and finding and noticing, but everyone gets to participate.
Ooh, I love that. That's really fun. I never jumped on the finger light train, but I think if I was called back, I would for sure be adding finger lights to my box of tools. That sounds so fun. Matching games. I found that both age groups love matching games. So that is one that I love. I'm trying to be like Jesus matching game that is like my very favorite. It's like the most precious matching game ever. We went through pictures in order already. Squiggle maps are really great for both age groups, and they can trace them with their wand or with their rhythm stick or even with their egg shaker, right?
Finger lights.
Yeah, squiggle maps are great. Abstract melody maps I found are really great too, when they can use their ribbon wand, really similar to a squiggle map, but it represents the music a little bit better in some ways. Catherine, you said yoga cards.
Yes.
Your primary loves yoga cards?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then Lacy, you mentioned body rhythm cards already, and audiation, inside camera, silent video, directed listening, sensory bags. Tell me about sensory bags. I don't know what those are.
Oh gosh, I wish I could remember who shared the idea. I use them for I Feel My Savior's Love, and I think I made one set of sacks for each half of the room, each junior and senior, and the things I put in them, they were like sticks and beans, and there was a different one in each one, cotton balls, and you know they would identify what they were, and I said, well, you know, how did you know what it was? You know, by how it felt. And so I'd say, okay, we've been singing I Feel My Savior's Love. Does it feel like any of these things? And well, no, where you don't feel it with your fingers, you feel it in your heart. Yeah, they like putting their hand in the bag, and oh, I know what it is. You know, it's a piece of cloth, or beans, whatever.
And I do something similar. I like it for My Heavenly Father Loves Me. We do a sensory walk, you know, where we have like the rose, to touch the rose and feel how soft it is. And I'll bring a mister bottle, and, you know, can you feel the rain on your face? And so they walk and have the teachers each kind of doing a station. And we smell like lilac lotion, and it's fun.
But yeah, I did something for Joseph Smith's first prayer. Like I recorded birds in my neighborhood, and you know, I brought things to smell like dirt, and some pine, and and flowers. You know, what might it have what might it have felt like that day? What might it have smelled like? What sounds did Joseph hear? Oh yes,
I love that.
maple syrup.
I was looking through her book today, Charlotte's book, to see what learning styles matched up for children, and I was actually kind of surprised that nature didn't really show up in the younger one, just in the older one. But she does say that nature works great when it directly relates to the song. And that's perfect. Like, really, that is absolutely perfect. I do a nature activity once every couple of years, every other year maybe, where I bring symbols of the resurrection in nature. And I didn't really ever think about, like, the little kids always loved it because they were intrigued about the objects, but I don't know if they ever connected that with why the objects, why we had a bird and a butterfly, not real, and a picture of a sunrise and a pine tree and things like that. I don't think they ever connected why we had those, but the older kids definitely did. The little kids still engaged, but I don't know if it really added to their understanding of the song. So I love that the activities that you shared actually relate specifically to the lyrics, and that is exactly how it should be. Okay, I'm going to continue down my list because we're going to run out of time. Spot It works good with both kids. I would not use that to teach, but to review, great for review. Pictures on a world map, one of my favorite things to do with both, and they both really love it. It's a very reverent activity. It almost feels like you know how silent videos are very sacred feeling. This one does that for me. I just bring a huge world map and I magnet it to the board, and then on another wall I have pictures that relate to the song and relate to the world. So I have pictures of children from all over the world, and for I Am a Child of God, or you know, any other song that, like Holding Hands Around the World, I've used it before. I've used it for a few more, but they'll take a picture and they will just attach it to the map on the board. And it's just a really gentle, great for ending after, you know, an intense rhythm activity, to end with something more gentle. And I just hand a kid a magnet, they grab a picture, they put it on the board, and everyone loves it. They love to see the pictures. I've done the same thing with temples, printed out pictures of temples and had them attach those to the board, to the map. And I've also done it with pictures from nature for I Feel My Savior's Love, and all the world around me. They take the picture, they attach it to the map. Works great for both. Totally don't need to change anything at all. What's in the bag? That works great for both. I love to teach the Holy Ghost with symbols of the Holy Ghost. And maybe now that I'm like reading her book and found out that nature isn't necessarily always the best for kids, I'm like, hopefully they understood that the wind wand, relates to how we can feel the Holy Ghost. We can't necessarily see him, but anyway, I'll have to rethink that next time I do it. Pictures Come Alive, I found that works great for both, and that is a good one where you can pair an older kid up with a younger kid too. Draw the Song, the little kid pictures are always amazing, and all of them love to do that. Song stories, we kind of mentioned that already. Song stories are great for both. I also sometimes will bring like an illustrated book. Sometimes books have been made into songs have been made into books, and I'll bring those and I'll have them pull up on the floor. The older kids maybe want to stay in their chairs, but the little kids will come and sit on the floor as we sing the book together with the pictures, and they love that. And my older kids are also engaged. They like to look at the pictures. And then pop-up books. I have a pop-up book that is temples. It's all about temples, and so when we sing I Love to See the Temple, I bring my temple pop-up book sometimes, maybe once a year or so, and I open it up and these temples just pop up, and it's beautiful, and it's out of print, so don't ask me for it, but it's this beautiful book. But I also have a Noah's Ark one, and it's probably also out of print, but they love pop-up books. Younger kids, older kids, they all love the pop-up books. Sit, stand, clap. Everyone loves that. So you stand, sit, or clap on specific words or words that start with specific letters. My favorite is Give Said the Little Stream. You stand and sit on the S words and clap on the G words, and that's my absolute favorite way for that one. We talked about sign language a little, but I like to do something called Sign Instead, where each time through a song we add a sign, and maybe if it was in an older group, I would say we're just not going to sing that word. But if it was combined, I'll just say we're just going to add one song every time we sing it. And this is more effective when you've already taught them the ASL for a song a little bit, and then this is kind of an extender activity that you can use for review later down the line. Hidden pictures. I know the older kids love word searches. Doesn't really work for younger kids so much, but hidden pictures will work for both. I have a cute artist friend that sometimes I have her draw a hidden picture for a specific song, and then so I have one on my website. If you ever sing Risen for Me, there's one on my website you can use. But yeah, the little kids, everyone likes to find the hidden pictures, and you can print it out or you can make it big on the board. picture takeaway where you've got all the pictures up on the board and then you're removing them every time you sing the song through. Everyone does well with that. And then we talked about sensory walk. So I think we got through all of the ones on my list. I know there are plenty more though. And Tina said, how do you use yoga cards? Yoga cards are those little like stick figure cards where you hold one up and they do the pose, and you hold another one up and they do the pose. I don't know if it's Charlotte's absolute favorite activity, but I feel like for review, it gets a lot of repetition in. They're moving, they're engaged. Does it add to the spirit of the song? It could,
Yeah.
maybe, depending on what the song is, but it's still a really
Yeah.
fun and well-loved activity. So do you
A
have
lot of
anything to add with that?
a lot of the poses you can relate to the words in the song in some way. Like, you know, if you're linking arms, you know, there might be some something in the song about being together,
Oh,
or like there's one where you put your hands up like this, and if you talk about your face.
okay. So bringing some
So
intention to the yoga cards, I do like that. That
yeah,
is awesome.
and I just put them up on the bulletin board in order, so I can do the actions with the kids instead of, you know, trying
Mm.
to, you know, do the Egyptian pose
Yeah,
with the card.
holding, I know that doesn't work too well. I think that that's actually a great one to keep in your primary bag if you ever have extra time and just
Hmm.
need to fill it with something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against it. Just pop those out. I think that's awesome. And also your cards that have your dynamics on them with your different animals,
Yeah,
Catherine, that you're talking about. I think
that's
that's a great one
strictly a
just to really
review
get that
one.
too.
Um, our our accompanist right now is one of the ward organists, and so if you know, on the days when she plays, I'll often use the animal cards because, you know, I don't need to worry about a pianist adapting to me. If we have the cheetah, the kids can just sing as fast as they can, and then, oh, we've got the mouse, got to sing quiet, right? And um, that's a great one for when you don't have piano.
Mm, yep, I love
And,
that
you know,
so
in the
much.
time when you're coming into the primary room, that is the main time when I use those.
Okay. All right, you two. Is there anything else you guys want to add? Any like pep talk you want to give anyone? Your most valuable tip or trick that you would want to share with someone who was just transitioning or just called to teach a combined primary? What would you tell them?
So I would just say that, I mean, this is great. This is lots of ideas. They're all a lot of fun. But if the kids know that they're loved and they feel loved in primary, you've won. Like that's it right there. Just knowing that they want to be there because it's an engaging, happy place to be where they feel valued. The rest is just kind of extra.
Hmm. I love that. I feel like there's three big loves in primary. The children need to feel loved, and then teach them to love their savior and to love the music. And I feel like if like, and it would be, well, those first two are pretty important. If you can get them to feel loved and to feel love for Jesus, I feel like, I mean, that's what it's really all about.
Right.
I love it so much. Catherine, what would you
And
say is your
oh,
biggest tip or trick?
Oh, did you have more, Lacy?
sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing. I think that's why these methods are so valuable because if you can keep their attention, you never have to get it back. Like, you know, people always say, how do you discipline in your primary? I don't because they're engaged and they're happy and so they're not having those negative experiences because these methods are so good at making it engaging. So I think it really does tie into that love that you're trying to create.
Yeah. I guess I would say another good thing about, um, you know, the smaller primary is it's easier to tailor the activities because you know the kids,
Hmm.
know them on a more personal level, and you're able to say, you know what, it's been a while since we did this activity. I know that Corbin really likes it, for example. And also, it's just easier for everybody to participate when the room is small. Everybody gets a manipulative, right?
I love that. You guys, I can just feel the love that you have for your primary children. Based on the way you speak about them and the way you speak about primary, I can just tell that you just love your children, and I am so happy that they have such great leaders. And I just want to thank everyone who watched tonight and whoever watches the replay. Thank you. And if you have more questions, put them in the comments. And I'm going to task Lacy and Catherine and the other admins to go in and answer questions as they come. And this is fabulous. Oh, and if you have any requests for any upcoming lives, please let me know. And maybe put that in the comments too. And we'll see if we can get to them. We have a couple of things on the schedule, but we're always looking for new ideas because once a month is hard. Oh, and also if anyone else wants to moderate, let me know. Because I think we've done one every month since February, and I feel like my family is getting burnt out. I think it's just getting hard. So anyways, with that, I'm going to leave you all maybe with some hearts. Let's see if I can make my hearts work again. My screen's a little dark, so it may not work. Well, that's lame. There they are. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and have a fabulous week.